All right, it is just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Luckily, I have a few folks on the call who are helping me be gatekeepers, so they'll be helping to admit folks who are trickling in. But we've got just about 60 people on the webinar today. I want to welcome all of you to the AMS Committee on Hydrology's Meet Your Session Chairs webinar. We'll also be talking about tips on having a successful annual meeting using social media despite the virtual format. We'll get a few introductions out of the way, and then we'll get right to our session chairs so we can give them all the time they need to talk up their sessions for the 35th Conference on Hydrology. Each one will have about 3 minutes to give a quick synopsis of their session and highlight any specific presentations that they find worth mentioning. Before I begin, I want to thank the rest of our social media subcommittee, but first I'll introduce myself. My name is Matt Beitscher, and I'm a meteorologist at the National Weather Service Forecast Office in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm also the social media subcommittee chair for the AMS Committee on Hydrology. The other members of the social media subcommittee, for the most part, are on the call. One of them is an operational meteorologist, so she's on shift today and couldn't join us, but I'd like to thank Dr. Heather Graham's research meteorologist at NOAA National Severe Storms Lab in Norman, Oklahoma, Dr. Meg Fowler, project scientist at NCAR Boulder, Colorado, Dr. Tim Lahmers, a postdoctoral fellow at NASA Goddard in Greenbelt, Maryland, and Nicole Hammond, who's a meteorologist at the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Burlington, Vermont. They were really instrumental in putting this webinar together, and they've been such a fantastic subcommittee to help get the to help spread the word about our committee and the conference that we're putting together for AMS 2021. I'd also like to welcome John McHenry, our AMS Committee on Hydrology chair, on the call today, Dr. Sujay Kumar, the program chair for the 35th Conference on Hydrology, and Tanya Franzen, who is the AMS 101st Annual Meeting co-chair. So welcome to you all, and thank you for your service to AMS. So we decided to put this webinar together today because, to put it simply, and I'm sure this is a cliche at this point, this has been a weird year, and AMS is not immune to the changes that have had to occur across the world over the last, basically the last 12 months. For the first time in our society's history, we will be having an all virtual annual meeting. And social media will play an even more important role this year than it has in years past. So we wanted to get together and kind of spotlight the talks that we've got put together for the Conference on Hydrology at AMS 2021. But we also wanted to discuss the impactfulness of social media in a virtual annual meeting. We ask that you consider using hashtags like AMS Hydrology, which is the official hashtag of the 35th Conference on Hydrology, and hashtag AMS 2021, which is the official hashtag of the annual meeting, on Twitter prior to and during the conference to highlight the pre-recorded talks in your session. Just to go over really quickly what the structure for the oral presentations and the poster presentations are going to be. The oral presentations will still be a 15-minute PowerPoint presentation. However, instead of being delivered live, it will be delivered almost across the board in a pre-recorded fashion. So you'll have to watch the talks ahead of time and then attend the 5-minute lightning talks, which will be the actual conference proceedings. And those will be about 5 minutes in length. And session chairs have the option of making this a lightning talk, or more commonly, it's going to be a Q&A. So you'll be able to ask questions of the presenter and discuss the work that they presented on and had a pre-recorded talk for. The recordings for these sessions and for the posters are due on December 28th, and no late submissions will be accepted. This gives folks ample opportunity to watch this, especially with the new year and the holiday season. They wanted to give folks enough chance to actually watch these presentations ahead of time. For poster presentations, it is required that a thumbnail image and a high-resolution PDF of the poster be submitted. However, it's also recommended that a pre-recorded 15-minute overview of the poster is presented as well. So you, just in case you have technical difficulties and cannot physically be, or I guess virtually be at your poster, the 15-minute overview recording can stand in your place and give attendees a sense of your work. Again, both the recordings for the oral sessions and any content for the posters are due on December 28th, and note late submissions will be accepted. Getting that out of the way, this is what the 35th Conference on Hydrology will look like from a bird's eye view. A few things that I do want to point out in terms of just slight differences from what would be considered a normal format. Some of the sessions are split 30 minutes each. So for example, I'll draw your attention to Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Half of the session 2A and 2B will be one topic, and then the other half will be another topic. So some of the sessions are split like that. It looks like primarily Monday and Wednesday are the have those little eccentricities. Some of them are concurrent. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday do feature concurrent sessions, either in the morning, afternoon, or both. And then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday's blocked format is slightly different than the Tuesday, Thursday format. You notice that we start a little bit later on Tuesdays and Thursdays. As a matter of fact, Wednesday we don't have any talks in the morning or any sessions in the morning. So there are slight differences from day to day. So we encourage you to look at the program online at the AMS's annual meeting website for the latest information on these sessions and on these last minute changes if any occur. So that being said, I want to get us as quickly as possible to our session chairs, and we have just about every session represented in this webinar, which is fantastic. I appreciate the session chairs taking the time out of their day to give a couple of minutes to talk about their sessions. We may go a little bit over time just because we got more session chairs than we expected, so we may end around 12:15 or 12:30 on the East Coast. But we will try to get through this as quickly as possible. We realize that webinar fatigue is real and it is raging. So we are going to move right ahead to the session chair portion of this, and I'm going to hand it over to Heather Grams and Meg Fowler, who are going to facilitate the session chair discussion. Heather, Meg, take it away.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. So for our first session chairs, we're looking at the extreme precipitation session on Monday, January 11th, and all the chairs are actually kind enough to get together and submit this video. So Matt, if you want to go ahead and play.
Sure.
Welcome everybody to the extreme precipitation session in the 35th Conference on Hydrology. My name is Bill Capel. I'm the Chief Meteorologist and President of Applied Weather Associates, and excited to be part of the 101st AMS Annual Conference. Now, Ken, can you tell us what our session looks like?
Yes, I can. We have two sessions, both on Monday. One is 10 to 11 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. The second session is 1 to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, obviously in the afternoon. I'm Ken Kunkel. I'm a research professor of atmospheric sciences at North Carolina State University. So John, what's going to be in our session?
Well, Ken, we're covering a lot of interesting topics, I think. I'm John Nielsen Gammon, by the way. I'm a professor of atmospheric sciences at Texas A&M, and I'm the Texas State climatologist. We're going to start off looking at extreme rainfall in global climate models. Then we're going to look at extreme rainfall events. First, general topics, and then focusing on tropical cyclones. And finally, forecasting those events. We're then going to sort of shift gears and look at rainfall frequency analysis. And I want to highlight an invited presentation by Daniel Wright of University of Wisconsin-Madison on that topic. We'll get into some data issues regarding extreme frequency analysis, and we'll wrap it up with extreme rainfall trends. Kelly, anything particularly exciting you'd like to mention?
Absolutely. Thanks, Sean. My name is Kelly Mahoney. I'm a research meteorologist at NOAA's Physical Sciences Lab in Boulder. And one of the things we're really excited about for our session is the ability to highlight a particular talk via the core science keynotes. And for our core science keynote, we're going to be able to feature Dr. Ken Kunkel, one of talking about extreme precipitation, of course, that his talk is going to be on Thursday, January 14th, and it's entitled Extreme Precipitation, the Merging Streams of Meteorology, Climatology, and Hydrology. So hopefully you can check that out, mark them on your calendar, and I'll toss it back to Bill.
All right, thanks Kelly, thanks John, thanks Ken. We're very excited for this session and really hope that everybody can have a chance to attend some of the excellent talks we have planned, and looking forward to seeing everybody at the conference.
Excellent. Thank you to all of those co-chairs.
Welcome, everybody.
Oops. There we go.
Thanks. Excellent. Okay. Our next session, again on Monday, January 11th, is Improvements to the Analysis and Prediction of Drought. And I believe we have Mike Hobbins on the call. Mike, do you want to unmute?
I think Josh Roundy is going to present for us.
Excellent. Josh?
Hi, yeah, so I'm Josh Roundy. I'm at the University of Kansas. I'm an assistant professor on civil environmental engineering. Our session is on improvements to the analysis and prediction of drought. Co-chair is Mike Hobbins, who's also on the call. Kim Novick, if she's on, I'm not sure if she's here. And then she's at Indiana University. And then Jason Otkin, who is at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So if either of those people are on, they're welcome to say hi. But we're really excited. We have 3 invited talks that we'd just like to highlight briefly here. The first is, and we're on Monday morning to afternoon. So the first talk is Compound Drought Heat Wave Events Self-Propagated via Land Atmosphere Feedbacks, and that is from Diego Morales at Ghent University. So we're excited that Diego's going to be able to present his work there, which is really exciting. We also have another invited talk, multi-stage scale drought prediction to support food insecurity and early warning, and that's from Shad Shukra at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Then our last invited talk is fitting drought science into context and calendars of agricultural decision making, and that's from Tanya Hai at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. So we have a great round, a whole bunch of other great talks as part of this, but you see we cover like physical processes, the land atmosphere feedback and drought prediction to human impacts, and we're really excited to present all that. So.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up, advancing atmospheric and surface process understanding through modeling and observations in high altitude complex terrain. And Daniel, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, excellent, take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to present here today and give a plug for our session. Ours is related to understanding hydrology in high altitude complex terrain. My name is Dan Feldman. I'm a research scientist at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, and I'm co-convening this session with Ethan Gutman, who's at NCAR, and Chandra at Colorado State University. We have a really exciting session that has a wide range of speakers and a number of great posters as well, looking at several field campaigns, primarily in North America, Canadian Rockies, and the United States. And I'd also like to highlight 2 neat presentations that look at physical process representations. The first is by Lejo Flores, who has taken a really interesting look at running WRF in complex terrain and shown that orographic precipitation representation in that model is a little bit different from how it looks in gridded observational products. But there's actually a little bit of uncertainty in those observational products, so it's a little bit unclear about which actually is right. And so there's an interesting dynamic between models and observations, and a presentation, poster presentation by Chansey Kuo that's going to be looking at 3-dimensional long wave radiation effects. That's something that is typically not represented in most models. So we really hope that you'll have a chance to stop on by virtually, and also follow up with the speakers and the poster presenters. There's a lot of interest in mountainous hydrology, a lot of programs at USGS, Department of Energy, NASA, domestically, and really the big picture is that there's a lot of water resources derived from mountains, and the process representation is something that the community is really excited to be advancing, and we're kind of this session is looking at some of the great details of that. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. But I'll cede the floor back to you now.
Excellent. Sounds like a great session. Thank you. Okay, next we have understanding the soil moisture spectrum from data collection to actionable applications. I believe, Molly, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Floor is yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Wolozin, and I am with NIDIS, which is the National Integrated Drought Information System, which is a part of NOAA. And I'm one of our regional coordinators in the Midwest region. And I am co-chairing the soil moisture session with Bruce Baker from NOAA and Marina Skumanik, also from NIDIS as well. And the focus of the soil moisture session is really to focus on from the data collection all the way to having actionable applications. And so we have presentations and posters that span that spectrum. For our oral presentations, we do have Marina speaking about the National Coordinated Soil Moisture Monitoring Network, which is currently an effort to integrate the soil moisture data and create usable tools to make decisions for the country. So we do have that to kick it off, and then we get into several different products that have been developed for soil moisture. There's also presentations on research related to evaluating soil moisture models, as well as different forecasting tools as well with soil moisture. We have some interesting posters as well on the satellite side, the model side, and also the application side as well for soil moisture. So I think it'll be a really great session. It's a very popular topic right now, especially has some congressional attention on improving soil moisture monitoring and applications. So definitely come check out some of the talks. Thank you.
It's great to hear. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have land atmosphere interactions. And Tim, are you available?
Yes, I'm still here. So yeah, Joe Santinello, who couldn't be here today, is chairing this session. So I just wanted to go through some of the main points we're going to be going through. So according to Joe, actually, the land atmosphere sections at AMS and for that matter, also AGU have been growing over the past decade and are now becoming more popular. That's meant that, which has been good for the session, that we've moved from being every other year to annual. The topics that we cover at the sessions are also fairly diverse. Obviously, there's an emphasis on hydrology, but also atmospheric sciences, climate variability and change, satellite meteorology, and even atmospheric chemistry. So there's a lot of chance for the land atmosphere section to for us to interact with other parts of the AMS annual meeting, which is definitely a positive thing in the virtual format. So this year the sessions are organized to be in terms of both more global, large scale, and long term. That's going to be our first session, and then which I believe is on that's going to be session 2A. Or no, I'm sorry. That's going to be session 3A on Monday. Then our second session is covering more local, regional, process-focused understanding of land-atmosphere interactions. There's also a little bit of an emphasis in this section on tools to sort of unlock this understanding. So looking at different models, types of observations, analysis, etc. But again, the two sessions are common in that they're quantifying the behavior of land-atmosphere coupling in nature and as well in models. One of the things that we're also really excited about this year, and this is something that we're able to do in the virtual format, is have two panel discussions. For session number 1, our panel discussion is on the future of coupled atmosphere hydrology modeling systems and applications. So I could see I think a lot of the people in this call are probably familiar with the WRF Hydro system. That's sort of an example of that. And so the emphasis on session 1 is going to be given the advances in coupling land and hydrology to atmospheric models, and for that matter, even the development of Earth system models, what are some of the needs of the land atmosphere community in terms of those capabilities, physics, processes, and added model complexity. We're also even going to be considering how to balance that complexity when observations are available at limited scales, both spatially and temporally. Session number 2, we're looking at observation needs for improved understanding of land atmosphere interactions. So again, kind of ties into a little bit of session 1. Ideally, it would be great if you could come to them both. The things we're going to be discussing in session 2 are sort of what are the current gaps in situ, ground-based, and satellite-based observations for things like the PBL. What are some of the most pressing needs to advance land atmosphere science? And then also even how to reconcile some of the pros and cons of local and short-term and high-resolution measurements compared to more global, routine, and low-resolution measurements. The other session co-chair on this call, Paul Diermeyer, is also here. So Paul, if you'd like to say anything, also that's he can close it out.
Yeah, nothing really to add. Did a good job, Tim. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you both. Okay, looks like our next session is linking snow hydrology and society through remote sensing, modeling, and data assimilation. And Melissa, if you're free, you can unmute yourself.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Meg. Yes, my name is Melissa Rezhin. I'm at NASA Goddard, and I'm chairing this session along with Carrie Voivich, also at NASA, and Eli Deeb at Krell. So we're really excited to have 2 oral sessions and then some really great looking posters this year. We're trying to pull studies that are sharing, not just remote sensing, not just modeling, or not just field observations, but even those that do data assimilation to kind of bring it all together. We had some really great talks on the recent NASA SNOWX field campaigns, some really interesting talks looking towards the future to potential satellite missions. I believe we have 3 invited presentations, and I'm just going to highlight the one that is in our Monday afternoon session by Stephen Pastana from the University of Washington. So he's a graduate student at University of Washington, and he'll be sharing some of the work that he did considering snow surface temperature remote sensing from the 2020 NASA FieldX or SNOWX campaign. I think kind of that's the highlight, just the large overarching view of what we've got going on. But I think we have a lot of really great presentations. And during our session on Wednesday, we should even have a couple of extra minutes at the end. Our session on Tuesday, we have a couple of extra minutes at the end to have a little bit more discussion as well. So that's kind of the snow session, and we're looking forward to all of the talks.
Sounds great. Thank you. Okay. Next up, advances in evaporation and evaporative demand. Mike, is this you?
No, I can take it away. This is Copniver. I am a postdoc at the USDA ARS Hydrology and Remote Sensing Lab. Some of the other chairs that'll be on this, you can see there are Mike and Dan McAvoy, as well as Martha Anderson of the USDA ARS Hydrology and Remote Sensing, and Chris Hain of NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. Our session is really going to be, on advances in the estimation of evapotranspiration, ET, and atmospheric evaporative demand made across a broad range of scales and techniques, either from in situ observations to remote sensing and modeling. And this year, in keeping with the AMS theme of community engagement through science, and service. We have submissions that are really going to be sharing their research as it relates to the applications for ET and EO information. For example, in water management and accounting, irrigation scheduling, drought and ecosystem health monitoring, and some yield estimation talks. We have 3 invited speakers, 2 of which are on the Tuesday session between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. One is of Robin Grimm of the Environmental Defense Fund. She's going to be talking about the new Open ET platform, which we're really excited about. We have another talk by Sebastian Saab, which will follow Robin's talk. He is at the Almond Board of California, and he's going to be talking about applications in irrigation management from an almond grower perspective, which will be really interesting. And then during our Wednesday session from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have an invited talk done by Chris Milley of USGS, and he's going to be looking at a case study in the Delaware River Basin, looking at disentangling drivers of long-term ET and stream flow patterns. So that's kind of the overview of our session. We're really excited for some of these talks and hope you guys will join us.
Great, thank you, Kyle. Okay. Next, we have advances in prediction and analysis of uncoupled and coupled hydrologic models using high-performance computing. John, would you like to unmute?
Hello.
There we go. Hi, John.
Yeah, hey. Yeah, I wasn't sure I would actually be talking about this today. We kind of put this together with the committee on high performance, the AMS committee on high performance computing, and it wasn't until later on that I realized I was going to be a co-chair on this session. But it's always and we've had this in the past. It's always a great session because so much of our current state of science, hydrological modeling systems are now growing out to scale, in the sense that high performance computing is becoming much, much more important in the ability to run these very high resolution models at very large domain resolutions. And one of the best examples of that is the National Water Model, and just how much computing it does take to run that model at approximately 250 meters over the CONUS Plus, including some of the basins that drain into the U.S. From the Idaho-Montana border, and then drain up from Mexico into the Rio Grande Valley. And the work that's gone into being able to make these models scale. So we have got a number of great papers coming up. We've got a paper on the new GEM hydro forecast system. Obviously one on community WRF hydro modeling systems, and some test bed work that's going on with that. We've got some presentations by IBM that's working on very, very high resolution applications on some of their large computers. And again, a couple of talks on the National Water Model, and one talk on IBM on ensemble streamflow modeling. And when you get into this kind of scale out and needing to run ensembles, which are critically important for risk assessment, especially at larger or longer forecast time ranges, the use and the understanding of how important modern HPC architectures are to enabling these kinds of things to happen with our high resolution models is very important. So anyway, that's just a summary of what we're going to have. It is a poster session, and so for all of the authors that are contributing, thank you very much, and we'll be in touch.
Great, thanks, John.
Okay.
That, I'm going to turn it over to Heather to introduce the rest of our chairs.
Thanks, Meg. All right, so the next session we have is on Wednesday, January 13th, and it is applications of remotely sensed observations to enhance land surface modeling. And Clara Draper is one of the chairs of that session. Clara, are you here?
I am here.
All right, go ahead.
Great, thanks, Heather. Yeah, so my name's Clara Draper. I work for Physical Sciences Laboratory, which is in the research arm of NOAA, based in Colorado. I have a few co-chairs. The first is Ali Barangi, who's at the University of Arizona. The second is Andy Fox, who's the land project team lead with the Joint Center for Satellite Data Assimilation's JEDI project. And then the final one is Jifu Yin, who's at NOAA NESDIS in Maryland. So our session is, it's called Applications of Remotely Sensed Observations to Enhance Land Surface Modeling. It's at 12:30 on Wednesday, I think the oral session is. The idea behind, I'm also the lead for the land data assimilation session, which is done every second year. And part of the motivation for this session was to try to have a session that's a little bit broader. So which includes both so the land DA session tends to focus a lot on soil moisture. So we wanted to look at a broader array of variables, but also wanted to look at other ways of combining remotely sensed and modeled information. And so I'm actually really pleased with how this session turned out so far. So I'm hoping maybe we'll do it again in 2 years' time. We took the opportunity that a remote meeting offers to invite an international speaker. So our invited speaker is Tristan Quaife from the University of Reading in the UK. And he's going to be talking about the development of a hybrid data assimilation technique to assimilate observations into the land surface model used by the UK Met Office, which I'm really excited about that talk. And then for the rest of the session, we've got a really great mix. Some talks centered on soil moisture, some on land atmosphere coupling, some on vegetation remote sensing, and one even on the relationship between precipitation form and carbon. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting session. And thank you everyone for coming today. Thanks.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. The next session that we were going to talk about is data-driven modeling in hydrology. And Sujay Kumar is one of the chairs of that session. Sujay, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Heather. Yeah, so I am Sujay Kumar. I'm a scientist at the Hydrological Sciences Lab at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. My co-chairs are Gray Nearing, who used to be at the University of Alabama, but he's now at Google AI, and Xiaoping Shen from Penn State University. So this session is, for those who have attended AMS in the past, this is an evolution of what we used to call as the benchmarking session. And again, there's been a bit of a revolution going on in the land surface and hydrological communities in looking at models that can be thought of as benchmarks to evaluate our physical models. So some of the papers that have come out have shown that these benchmarking models, even when they are simple, they do a lot better, or at least they do equally well as our more detailed physical models. And even from a remote sensing and data assimilation perspective, there is sort of an acknowledgement that we need to think beyond our classical methods in order to extract information from observations and into the models. So this session is an attempt to capture some of these interesting advances that are happening in the community. So as part of the session, we invited topics that are, that cover a broad spectrum, ranging from benchmarking ideas to using data-driven models as sort of a new way of doing data assimilation. So we have 2 sessions here, one a short oral session and a poster session. In the oral session, we have 2 invited talks. Again, one from Pierre Gentin. He's going to talk about some of the data-driven modeling for estimating ET. And Alden Sampson from Natal Energy is going to talk about the use of deep learning methods for operational streamflow forecasting. So, and the other talks and the posters cover again a broad range of topics in the use of data-driven models for estimating river storage, soil moisture, water level, and different parts of the water cycle. So I'm excited about this session, and I hope that this will evolve in coming years into a very interesting topic.
Okay, thank you, Sujay. The next session we have is a poster session. It is titled Utilizing Numerical Weather Prediction Models in Support of Hydrologic Design, and it is chaired by Kelly Mahoney. Kelly, do you want to take away?
So I think that's actually a typo. This is actually, I'm Katie Holman.
I'm sorry.
She's a co-chair, but Kelly's not here to talk about it, I don't think. So my name is Katie Holman. I'm one of 4 co-conveners. So we have Kelly Mahoney, who's also on here. We have Angela Duran, who's from the Army Corps of Engineers, Jade Siddell, who's from the Bureau of Reclamation, and then I neglected to say where I'm from. I'm actually also from the Bureau of Reclamation, so I'm in Denver. And so, you know, we put together this session where the focus is really demonstrating examples of numerical weather prediction model applications that support some well-known design engineering concepts. So we're talking about concepts like probable maximum precipitation or precipitation frequency analyses. And so this session, yeah, we have a poster session, which I think you don't have the date. Oh yeah. Yeah, okay, so Wednesday. Yeah, and so we really just want to capture, you know, applications of numerical weather prediction models at the intersection, I think, of meteorology and hydrology. I work for a federal agency, and so we want to demonstrate how we can use these new and evolving research tools to help support decision making. So thank you.
All right, and before we share out the slides with everyone after the meeting, maybe we can update the list of the chairs on the slides so that all their contact information is on there if anybody has any questions. All right, go on to the next session. We have one over 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, called Regional, Continental, and Global Remote Sensing Precipitation Estimation, Evaluation, and Applications. And the session chair is Janice Bythway. Janice, are you here?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Janice, by the way. I'm a research scientist at the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences at the University of Colorado Boulder. I also sit at the NOAA Physical Sciences Laboratory. My co-convener is Hao-Nan Chen, who, as of this year, is a professor of electrical engineering at Colorado State University. So what this mouthful of a session title really focuses on is looking at advances in radar and satellite remote sensing and precipitation. That includes improvement to existing algorithms, creation of new algorithms, new ways to combine, existing observations to try and get multi-sensor estimates of precipitation, and then the assessments of such products. So we have some presentations that are updating a lot of the really widely used precipitation data sets. Our 2 invited talks, which are on Thursday, right at the beginning of the session. We have Bob Adler, who's going to talk about updates to the Global Precipitation Climatology Project, or GPCP. And George Huffman is going to talk about what they're working on for the upcoming version 7 of the iMerge product. We also have several presentations that are dealing with the challenges of remote sensing of frozen precipitation, precipitation at high latitudes, and some of them are looking at precipitation in complex terrain. So kind of a really wide gamut of pretty much anything you can fit under the umbrella of remote sensing of precipitation. This is actually my first time chairing a session, so I'm really, really excited. I'm really thankful to Hao-Nan for all of his help, and I'm really glad it's been really well received by the community. So I hope you'll all come check it out.
Okay, thank you, Janice. And we have another poster session on Thursday called GIS Applications in Hydrology, and Dwayne Mitchell is chairing that session. Dwayne, do you want to talk about it?
You bet. Thank you very much, Heather. I appreciate that. Yes, this is a poster session. This will be, again, repeat Thursday, January 14th from 1 to 2:30. We have 4 posters that will be presented, and really looking forward to learning how people are using GIS in their work, whether it be GIS tools, whether they be commercial tools or open source. How people are using these tools and using GIS platforms to present information such as snowfall in a GIS environment, and providing that information to emergency managers as well as water resource planners. We'll also learn and hear about how GIS is being used for flash flood forecasting, specifically use cases within the Utah environment. Again, I didn't tell you who I'm with. I'm with DTN, which is based out of Minneapolis. I'm actually physically located in Norman. And I should also say that we have a co-chair, which is Dr. Kim Elmore, who's affiliated with the National Severe Storms Laboratory. Moving on, the other posters that we have will be presented as well from DTN on using GIS to provide insights into extreme rainfall, especially with regard to using this technology really within the AWS computing, using AWS computing infrastructure, and to provide insights to extreme rainfall, again, for the use by, say, emergency managers and flood and people interested in flood control. And lastly, we'll also learn about how using GIS for basin delineation, a very important activity, exercise, in order to best assess the rainfall that occurs within these basins and the impact that this has on flash flooding. That's it. Looking forward to it. Excited about this and looking forward to meeting folks, and give a shout to me if I can be of any help. Thank you. Back to you, Heather.
Thanks, Dwayne. That was very interesting. Moving on. Let's see. We have advances in monitoring. Oh, somebody's not muted. Okay. Advances in monitoring, analysis, and prediction of flash drought and related heat waves. This has one session and one poster session on Thursday. And Jeff, I think I just muted you because I was hearing an echo, but I think you're the chair, so I'm going to let you unmute yourself and now talk.
All right. Hopefully there's no more echo. So on my end, just want to introduce myself, and obviously I'm Jeff Beitscher. I'm at the University of Oklahoma. I have a joint appointment in the School of Meteorology and in the School of Civil Engineering and Environmental Sciences. And I lead, I'm our Executive Associate Director of our Hydrology and Water Security program here at the university. This topic on flash drought is really important. In fact, there was a workshop that was held last week that was, sort of led and sponsored by NOAA and NIDIS, and this topic is growing in scientific interest, and it really builds upon some of the earlier drought work that's earlier in the session that's led by others. And in terms of putting this together, really, I want to give a shout out to the other folks that are listed here, specifically Jordan Christian, who's actually a PhD student, as well as Ryan Wakefield. They worked with Jason Otkin at the University of Wisconsin, Andy Hull at the Physical Sciences Lab for NOAA, in putting this session together in terms of getting a wide range of topics and presentations. So in terms of our session, there's in terms of this concept of flash drought. In fact, this was really highlighted even in the workshop last week, that a number of folks that I know are on this conference call have attended, is that there's still a lot of questions. And so really the timing couldn't be better to have some of these presentations that build on just the overall discussion that came out of that workshop last week. And so we have a number of topics. We're actually our session is sort of led off by Dr. Krista Peters-Ladard. She actually is going to give the Core Science keynote and invited presentation on 30 years of progress in land data assimilation. So you're not going to want to miss that. And then following that, we have a number of different topics and talks about specific cases, about predictability of flash drought, definitions, what is it, how to define intensity, and really this topic of rapidly cascading drought that can develop rather quickly and have significant impacts is really highlighted in our session of talks. I'm excited because we have a number of senior individuals, but we also have early career and students, and I really want to. I haven't heard anybody really mention the students. We got to remember our students that are giving presentations this year. And I just want to make a point here on behalf of the students that December 28th deadline is really, really causing a lot of anxiety and stress, specifically for them, because if they are at universities, many of the universities shut down during that window between Christmas and New Year's. And they are dislocated in many cases from their universities right now. And so putting these things together during this window of time is really being a challenge. So, you know, I understand obviously the big picture of the conference, but I also want to, you know, be an advocate for the students, and we really need to be thoughtful about how we approach the students with these hard deadlines during this window and provide grace. And yes, I know we need to have the talks in because people need to see them before the conference begins. We have a real challenge with students trying to wrap up the most difficult semester of their academic careers right now, trying to get this work done and put it together in ways that they haven't had to do before. So just be cognizant of that as session chairs and as a committee when we deal with our students right now, because as an academic dealing with students on a daily basis, I can tell you right now, just like everybody else, they're being pushed to their limits. And this deadline specifically, I can't tell you how many students have told me that this is a real problem. So just think about that for a second. And with that, I am done.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for the comment. Okay. Yeah, and that's a good point, and I'd like to kind of encourage if there are any students or any presenters kind of watching this who have questions about what they need to do for the pre-recordings or kind of content. We put the contact information for all the session chairs on these slides because we want you to have kind of a resource. If you have questions, you can ask about the session specifically or details about that. So if you do have questions, please reach out to the folks listed on these slides. Or, you know, some of us on the hydrology committee could provide some guidance as well. All right, so the next session I have listed here is Flood Prediction, Analysis, and Management. It is chaired by Brian Cosgrove.
Thanks. So we have 2 sessions spanning 2 days over Thursday and Friday. And as was just said, we have myself, Brian Cosgrove, chairing it along with co-chairs of Laura Reed, recently with the National Center for Atmospheric Research, and now with Upstream Tech. And then also Francesca Viterbo, recently with the NOAA Earth System Research Lab, and now with Research in Energy Systems in the Department of Weather and Climate Applications for Sustainable Development. So I'm with the Weather Service, with the Office of Water Prediction up in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I'm the technical director for the water model. And so I'm excited at the session that we have here. We have a lot of excellent talks that have been submitted, oral presentations. We start out with a core science keynote, which focuses on merging the streams of meteorology, climatology, and hydrology. And I think that really sums up really the nature of our field quite well, just in that water, I feel like, is at the nexus of a number of applications and different science disciplines. It really links everything together. And so this idea of merging the streams is the focus of the core science talk, but it's really present in one degree or another, I think, through all of our talks and posters. So I think an exciting way to look at things. Other talks we have within the session really span the gamut of the focus here, which is, again, flood prediction, analysis, and management. So everything from local scale to global flood modeling, both science-oriented and application-oriented. We have case studies across various scales from the local watershed all the way up to the global scale. We have talks covering the cutting-edge advances in the hydrologic and hydraulic modeling approaches, new ways of applying those tools, both in terms of, again, science and research to applications and operations. And then we also have climatological studies and other hydrological trend analyses. So really a wide range of talks, spanning across scales and science disciplines, and really linking together everything through the kind of the central nexus of water. So I'm very excited at the selection of talks, and hope folks are to attend.
Thank you very much, Brian. Okay, and then we have a Friday session with one oral session, one poster session titled Probabilistic Hydrometeorological Forecasting and Uncertainty Analysis. And the session conveners for that will be Shugong Wang and Huiling Yuan. Is Huiling here?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, I'm Huiling Yuan at Nanjing University, China. So say hello from China. Yeah. So this session is focused on probabilistic hydrometeorological forecasting, and also the uncertainty analysis. So my co-chair is Shugong Wang from NASA. I also have Tom Adams from USAID, a U.S. Agency for International Development. His name is missing here. So we attract several papers with some new techniques. And I like to highlight two invited speakers. First one is Greenbelt from UC Davis. His talk is about hydrological modeling with deep learning. So this is a new technique and is popular, becomes more popular recently, especially for the improving hydrological modeling and also the post-processing and the calibration for the hydrological model, and how to use this new machine learning technique for hydrological modeling. I think most audience are very interested in this talk. So this is a great one. And another invited talk is by Tom Hamill from NOAA. He likes to present the recently developed new reforecast data. So this data has been developed for last decade about to handcast hydrological prediction. So this is a meteorological forcing for hydrological predictions. And this is a new resolution. So for his talk, he will review this new data and try to promote this data for the abroad users. So the data can be downloaded from cloud computing. So it's more advanced how to download the data, and post-processing also is good for calibration. So we have one talk session in the morning and also a poster session in the afternoon. So several talks about how to post-process precipitation and how to improve hydrological model parameters. And one talk about the new tech about artificial neural network for statistical post-processing. So this totally about 6 talks, 9 posters, including several young scientists and students. So this is the 4th year we propose this session, and jointly with the Committee of Statistics and Probability. So I believe here this new technique and all these new topics can attract some audience, especially for young scientists. They play the deep learning, machine learning, and neural network, and can discover new stuff here. Thank you for your support. Yeah, hi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have another Friday session with an oral session and a poster session titled NOAA's National Water Model, Improving Hydrologic Consistency, Operational Forecast Utility, and Enhancing Impact-Based Decision Support Services. And this session will be chaired by Jerome Jones. Jerome, you here?
Hey, Heather. My friends call me Darren, so
Darren.
Please call me Darren. Hey, everybody. My name is Darren Jones. I am the Director of Operations at NOAA's National Water Center in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And during this session, by the way, everybody sounds like they got a lot of great talks, and I'm looking forward to getting to see many of them as I can. For my session, we're going to be looking at the continental scale hydrologic forecasting models because they provide consistent means to predict floods, droughts, water supply, water quality across broad spatial scales. And obviously the National Water Model, which I've heard several times already, is one of those tools. A lot of great talks lined up for this. We look at everything from current operations of the National Water Model, future plans, using the water model configuration of work hydro to forecast runoff at the edge of field, general assessment of water model reservoir inflows, assessing bias correction sensitivities from HER non-precip forcing fields, testing the water model in Alaska for snow remote sensing and model performance and collaborative learning, development of the coastal flood forecast capability, utilizing the water model for low flow estimation, deriving actionable intelligence from national water model support decision support services. A big one that we're excited about this year, flood inundation mapping services, dynamic information for decision support. And then capping it off, we'll have developing a tabletop exercise in support of implementing the near real-time flood forecast for FEM. So a lot of exciting talks, and thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. And I think this might be the last one. It's a Friday session with an oral session in the afternoon and also a poster session in the afternoon titled Precipitation Processes and Observations for Atmospheric Land Surface and Hydrological Modeling. And I believe Andrew Newman is going to give a few words about it.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So I'm co-chair this session. I'm Andrew Newman. I'm a project scientist at NCAR in the Hydromet Applications Program, which is part of the Research Applications Lab. My co-chairs are Viviana Maggioni, who's an assistant professor of environmental and water resource engineering at George Mason, and Yukon Kui, who's a research scientist at the Institute of Geographic Sciences and Natural Resources at the Chinese Academy of Sciences. We've actually also had Haonan Chen. He was a co-chair originally, but he had shifted over to another session, but we've still included him with all of our session activities. So you've seen his name on other sessions, but he's an assistant professor in electrical computer engineering at Colorado State. So this is a kind of a catch-all session or a course session of hydrology that tries to bring together a lot of aspects of precipitation. And I think we're all really excited about our session. We have an hour oral session on Friday, and then a poster session in the afternoon after lunch, or I guess they're both after lunch Eastern. I'm operating on Mountain Time. We have really a good slate of talks, a wide range of topics, as you can tell from the session title. We have two invited talks, one by Brenda Dolan, who's a research scientist in the radar meteorology group in the Department of Atmospheric Sciences at Colorado State. And she's done a lot of work through the years on radar meteorology and drop size distributions. And so she's going to be talking about how the environment influences drop size distributions. And she's done a lot of field work. She's going to be collating observations across multiple field campaigns in this talk. And then we have Ralph Cifelli as our second invited talk. He's the lead of the hydrometeorology modeling and applications team at NOAA, the physical science laboratory, PSL. And he's going to talk about this AQPI project that's been happening just outside of San Francisco, talking about radar rainfall estimation and linkages to hydrologic applications. And there's a ton of work that's been done in this project. And the Hydromet team at NOAA has done a lot of work on rainfall estimation, quantitative rainfall estimation, and moving into hydrology applications. And then we have a lot of contributed talks spanning students and professionals, going from looking at precipitation and global climate models through improving other types of observational products, and then a bunch of posters that I don't think I have time to mention, but there's a lot of good stuff in our session as well.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. Go to the next slide. Now that was a rundown of all the sessions that we have in the 35th Conference on Hydrology. Thank you very much for sticking with us through those, and I hope you heard some good stuff that you want to tune in for when we're actually at the conference. And please look at the pre-recorded talks as well for anything that you're interested in before the conference and your own timing. Do we have any final questions from the audience? We have a few slides after this just for some social media tips about how to kind of get the word out about interesting things you see during the conference. But right now we'll just take some quick questions about the sessions themselves.
All right, doesn't look like there are any. If there are any, if you think of any in the next minute or two, go ahead and either drop it in the chat. We did have a couple of questions in the chat regarding whether the 5-minute, the summary slide for the 5-minute lightning talk would be also due on the 28th of December. As of right now, we're not entirely sure, but we will get that answer for you folks. Tanya and Sujay are not entirely sure, but Sujay does believe it's the 28th. For that deadline for all content, including the summary slide. And the conference platform was another question that is still being decided. However, that should be decided relatively soon and then announced to the conference attendees. Just a couple of quick notes regarding the sessions and the scheduling. I neglected to mention the date and time for our Horton lecture, which is the invited talk for the Horton Award, the Horton Medal winner, and that will be at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, and that will be given by Wade Crow, who is our Horton lecturer for 2021. He'll be giving a lecture on bridging the gap between remote sensing and land process representation and land surface models. Speaking of the times, there were some discrepancies between what was said and what was on the slide regarding the times for the meetings. If you read the annual meeting program online, the times are actually in your local time. It'll say on the top in a very nondescript small font, my time. So that the times are actually in your time zone. The times we showed were in Eastern time. So it's seemed like there was some discrepancy, but there actually was none. I want to thank all of the session chairs who joined us from across the country and apparently around the world. So thank you for hopping on the webinar. We're going to hand it off now to Tim Lahmers, who's going to discuss some social media tips on how to stay connected during the annual meeting.
Yeah, I could do that. Actually, Matt, I see you have one more question.
Oh, yes, I just got that too. I'm sorry. How the poster sessions will run. Okay, so Amanda Ferris asked, can you give us a sense of how the poster sessions will run? We will have an opportunity to connect. Will we have an opportunity to connect with other attendees during the session? Should we expect to give an overview to everyone, or will there be one-on-one discussion primarily? I believe the way they're having it set up is that you will be able to interact with the conference attendees. I'm not entirely sure of the specifics. I think that's tied to what platform they choose and the limitations to that platform. If anybody has any other insight on that, Sujay is still here. If he wants to make any comments on that, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't have any comments at the moment. One thing I wanted to just point out to the session chairs is think about the student presentations in your sessions, and Melissa Reason, she's coordinating the judging of those presentations, and then there are going to be awards given out. So please coordinate with her in terms of lining up judges and reviewing those presentations.
And just a general tip about the poster sessions that I kind of picked up from a previous virtual meeting I was in. Depending on what platform they choose, if it is just like a chat window where you ask questions in chat and look at the slides, one option that I have seen people do if they want more face-to-face interaction is you can set up kind of your own Google Meet space and just put the link to that Google Meet in the chat, or whatever platform you want to link to. But that, if you want to do that and there's not like a face-to-face option in the platform, that's one way of kind of getting some face-to-face time with people looking at your poster. So just a thought.
This is Melissa here. Thanks, Sujay, for mentioning the student awards. Session chairs, I will aim to email you maybe next week with our forms for judging. It'll obviously all be online, but the goal is to have 3 judges per student. So if you should know from when you created your schedule who the students are that would like to be considered for an award. So just start thinking you'll need about 3 judges for each student. I and other members of the hydrology committee are probably more than happy to help with the judging if need be. But I look for an email from me maybe sometime next week on that.
Excellent. Thank you, Melissa, Heather, and Sujay. If we have no other questions, let's get on to the social media aspect of the webinar. And Tim, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so social media, I'm just going to give a few tips for following the virtual conference on social media. And again, with the virtual format this year, social media is a great way to stay connected with the meeting, since it's a little bit more difficult to interact with other attendees in the virtual platform. So you can go ahead, follow the AMS Committee on Hydrology on Twitter and Facebook. Our Facebook link is there. Our Twitter handle's there also. We also suggest a couple of other Twitter handles. At Wharf Hydro is great. They tweet a lot of stuff on the hydrometeorology community, and of course the AMS Twitter handle as well is listed there. And remember the two hashtags. There's hashtag AMS 2021, and from our experience in the past, AMS is usually pretty good at even retweeting things that use their hashtag. So that's a good way to get some quick attention if you're promoting like a talk or a session or something. And also AMS Hydrology has its own hashtag. We've been using it the past several years and it's been pretty successful. Next slide, Matt. A few tips also, you can use TweetDeck to follow hashtags. So if there's, if you want to follow, for instance, the AMS conference or a specific topic on the AMS conference or one of our hashtags like AMS Hydrology, TweetDeck's a great feature for that. Next slide, Matt. And that's just an example there, AMS Hydrology. Next slide. And yeah, same example there.
Yeah.
Next slide, Matt.
I just wanted to comment on this really quickly. TweetDeck allows you to see multiple kind of sources at the same time, so you can check your own feed, which is what that one on the left is, and then you can check somebody else's feed, so you can follow what, for example, what AMS Hydrology is tweeting or what AMS is tweeting, or some of your favorite authors, or if the session chairs have Twitter accounts. And then you can also add tabs and kind of build your TweetDeck with hashtags and stuff like that. One thing I wanted to note also about hashtags, they not only allow other people to see your content in the moment in a kind of grouped together setting, it also allows folks in the future, if they want to look back at AMS 2021 or they want to look back at the content that was tweeted about AMS Hydrology, they can scroll through that. So it's a good way of content collection and kind of summarizing content. So just wanted to mention that, but go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Our other tip that you can, for using TweetDeck, is you can also schedule tweets in advance, which again, in a virtual format can be really useful. For instance, if you have a talk that's at an odd time or want to promote your talk to people that maybe are in a different time zone, for instance, if you live on the West Coast and you want to make sure people on the East Coast see your morning talk, this is a good way to do it without having to tweet in the wee hours of the day or be at your computer at an odd time. We have a few slides here to kind of show you how to do it. Next slide. So when you get ready to tweet something through TweetDeck, you can hit the schedule tweet button that we have with the red circle right there. Next slide. And when you hit that button, you'll see a calendar appear. So you could type in the date and time that you want your tweet to appear. You've probably noticed if you follow AMS Committee on Hydrology, we actually use that feature pretty regularly to make sure that some of our things, like for instance, journal article of the week, go out at the right time. And so then there's an example, you could show something that's tweeted way in advance. Like the AMS Committee on Hydrology, for instance, tweeted something to go out on the 17th of December. And I think we have one more question on social media I can see.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we had for the social media tips. We did have a question from Timothy Schneider asking if one can follow these accounts if we do not have accounts on the service. Short answer, unfortunately, is no. You can view the content. You are allowed to view a public page on Facebook or a Twitter account that's not private without having an actual account or without following them, but it's not as easy to do. You won't get you can't set up alert notifications. You'd have to physically go to the website and do it. So it's only through the web-based server. You can't use apps. Basically, the apps will require you to sign in and use the account. So we do suggest creating a Twitter account at the very least, because that is our more both on our committee and the AMS as a whole, that's the more robust social media platform that provides live updates about the conference and about the annual meeting as a whole. If you don't want to do that and you want to just check the Twitter account every couple of hours and just refresh the feed, you can do that through the just by going to twitter.com/AMS Hydrology or /AMETSOC, which is the AMS Twitter handle. Though, like I said, it's a little more clunky than actually having an account and following us.
Hey, Matt, there is a question by Amanda on how the poster sessions will be run.
Oh yeah, so that was what we had answered before, Sujay, discussing the posters.
Yeah, so just want to add to that, there is, the exact nature of it will depend on the vendor, but it's going to be, there will be an opportunity to interact with the person, either on a one-on-one basis or join a group or discussion that's already in progress. And if you want to interact with the other attendees, I think I encourage you to check out the networking sessions and slots that are planned.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And mentioning that AMS Hydrology is planning on having 2 networking socials during the networking times at either the beginning or the end of the day. One specifically for students and one for the hydro community at large. So look out on our social media platforms and through your emails for information on those. Do we have any other questions from the audience about social media or anything in general? It doesn't sound like it. Going once, going twice. All right, I think we're going to call this a webinar. I want to thank Heather, Meg, and Tim, and Sujay, and John, and everybody who chimed in and helped us answer these questions and put this webinar on. We had about 80 folks at our peak, which was fantastic. With any luck, I recorded this presentation, so you should be able to do that. And Mike mentioned the Her Stories event. I believe, I don't remember exactly what time. Mike, do you want to unmute and talk more about that? I don't remember the exact date and time for that event.
I think if Huiling is still on. Oh, here we go. Huiling.
There she is. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
It's on Thursday, June 4 to 5.
I'm sorry, 4 to 5 on Thursday. Excellent. You want to say anything about it, Huiling?
So I would say that if for the meeting chairs, if you have the opportunity to talk with anyone, please spread the word to encourage women to attend this, women in hydrology, and especially those early careers. We sort of hope that this will foster the development of some mentoring relationship. Even though the virtual format does make it hard, but our initial intention is to really have these more for the earlier careers. Of course, everyone is welcome, and in fact, most of our panelists are fairly senior in their career, and everyone is welcome. But we think that the early careers will get the most out of it.
Excellent. Thank you, Huiling. Thank you so much for helping to organize that as well. If we don't have any other questions or comments from the committee or anybody else here on the call, I think we'll let it wrap up. We didn't go as far as over as I thought we would. Thank you to all of our session chairs for taking the time out of their day and for all our attendees. And we'll see you at AMS 2021. Have a great rest of your week and stay safe and healthy over the holidays.
Thanks, Matt, Heather, and Meg, and Tim. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Sujay.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye.